Financial crimes that crushed entire nations. Some crimes leave scars, others leave nations in ruins. Behind every collapsed economy, every broken country, there's often a suit, a handshake, and a hidden account. These aren't just stories of fraud. They're stories of betrayal on a national scale. Today, we uncover the financial crimes that didn't just break laws. They broke countries. Iceland. The frozen collapse. In 2008, as the world panicked over Wall Street's collapse, a silent catastrophe unfolded in the North Atlantic. Iceland, a peaceful nation of just 300,000, became the epicenter of one of the most spectacular banking crashes in modern history. Its three largest private banks, Glitnir, Landsbanki, and Kaupthing, had exploded in size, taking on foreign debt that was over 10 times the country's GDP. These banks promised massive returns to global investors. But behind the curtain was a house of cards, shady deals, risky loans, and practically no oversight. When the financial tide turned, everything collapsed. Iceland's currency plummeted. Inflation skyrocketed. Unemployment surged. Thousands lost their jobs, homes, and futures overnight. The government was forced to nationalize the banks in a desperate attempt to contain the damage. Angry citizens took to the streets. For the first time in history, a modern democratic nation jailed its top bankers for fraud and market manipulation, but no prison sentence could undo the trauma that swept through the nation. Greece, the lie that became a curse. Meanwhile, in southern Europe, a deeper, more calculated crime was unfolding. For years, Greek governments had cooked the books. With the help of global banks, including Goldman Sachs, they manipulated national debt numbers to meet EU standards and enter the Eurozone. On paper, Greece looked stable, but in reality, it was a financial time bomb. When the 2008 global crisis hit, the truth surfaced. The deficit wasn't 6%. It was over 13% of GDP. Greece defaulted. Investors fled. The economy imploded. In 2010, a $110 billion bailout came, but with brutal conditions. Austerity, deep cuts to healthcare, education, pensions, tax hikes, national despair, hospitals closed, youth unemployment reached 60%, suicide rates soared, and those responsible? Most walked away untouched. Some kept their power. Others vanished into comfortable retirements. The people paid the price. Again. Zimbabwe, when money meant nothing. Zimbabwe, once a land of promise, turned into a symbol of monetary catastrophe. In the early 2000s, the government led by Robert Mugabe began printing money on an unimaginable scale. Their excuse? Economic recovery. The truth? To fund corruption and control. What followed was one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in modern history. By 2008, prices were doubling every 24 hours. A loaf of bread cost billions of Zimbabwean dollars. The central bank printed a $100 trillion note, which couldn't even buy a meal. Eventually, people abandoned their currency entirely, trading goods or switching to foreign money. The middle class vanished. Hospitals collapsed. Millions fled the country, and those in charge, still in power, still wealthy, still untouchable. Mozambique. The tuna that sank a nation in the early 2010s, Mozambique, one of the poorest nations on earth, had a plan. A state-run company would invest in a tuna fishing fleet to boost exports, create jobs, and modernize the economy. But behind the smiling promises was a financial time bomb. The government secretly took on over $2 billion in debt, backed by foreign banks, including Credit Suisse. The public was never told. Parliament was never consulted. Much of the money never even went to boats. It was lost to bribes, kickbacks, and ghost contracts. When the scandal broke, global investors fled. Donors suspended aid. The national currency collapsed. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Schools closed. Hunger returned. A financial fraud disguised as economic development had sunk an entire country deeper into poverty. And the worst part? International banks helped structure the deal, knowing it would likely end in disaster. USA. When the system itself becomes the crime, you don't have to travel far to find the most infamous example. In 2008, the United States, the heart of global finance, fell victim to its own greed. For years, major banks handed out subprime mortgages to unqualified buyers. These risky loans were then bundled, repackaged, and sold to investors as safe securities. It was a lie, and everyone in the industry knew it. As defaults increased, the housing bubble popped. Major institutions collapsed. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns. Millions of Americans lost their homes. The economy nosedived into the Great Recession. The U.S. government responded with a $700 billion bailout, not for the people, but for the banks that caused the crisis. And the CEOs? They gave themselves bonuses. In the end, almost no one went to jail. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed, just not for you. These crimes aren't accidents. They're not simply bad decisions. They are deliberate acts, orchestrated in silence, approved behind closed doors, and paid for by people who had no say. Every collapsed economy, every broken country, every empty stomach, and every lost dream is the consequence of someone, somewhere, choosing profit over people. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. This isn't a glitch in the system. This is the system, a world where billionaires hide money offshore while hospitals run out of supplies, where fraudulent schemes are legalized by lobbyists and defended by lawyers, where punishment is rare and reward guaranteed. In these financial crimes, there are no fingerprints, no blood on the floor, just signatures, digital transfers, press releases. But the damage, it echoes for generations. Countries like Zimbabwe, Greece, Lebanon, and Mozambique may never fully recover. The next crisis is already brewing. And chances are, the people who caused the last one will cause the next. So what can we do? Watch? Vote? Hope someone finally pays the price? Or maybe we start asking different questions. Who profits from collapse? Who controls the numbers we trust? And how many more nations must fall before the curtain is finally pulled back? Because in the shadows of greed, the real crime isn't just theft. It's silence and forgetting. Follow the money, and you'll find the truth they never wanted you to see.